Coordinates: 34 degrees 36 minutes 12 seconds south, 58 degrees 22 minutes 54 seconds west, 34.6033 degrees south, 58.3817 degrees west, minus 34.6033. Minus 58.3817. Aerolneas Argentinas, formerly Aerolneas Argentinas S.A., is Argentina's largest airline and the country's flag carrier. The airline was created in 1949 from the merger of 4 companies and started operations in December 1950. Aerolneas Argentinas and its former sister company Austral Líneas Aéreas operates from 2 hubs, both located in Buenos Aires, Aeroparque Jorge Newbery and Ministro Pistarini International Airport. Its narrow-body fleet, used on domestic and regional routes, consists of Boeing 737-700, 737-800 and 737 MAX 8. Whereas intercontinental and transoceanic services are flown on the wide-body Airbus A330-200. The history of the airline began in 1929, when Compagnie Generale Aeropostale mainly operated flying boats northwards to the Mesopotamia. Flota Aérea Mercante Argentina. The state holding was officially rebranded as Aerolneas Argentinas Empresa del Estado. The 4 companies comprising the state holding ceased independent operations on 31 December 1949. Aerolneas Argentinas started operations on its own on 7 December 1950. The airline's network was 35,000 miles. Over 18 hours were needed for it to cover a distance of 7,075 miles between Hatfield and Buenos Aires. On 7 March, she was christened Las Tres Marias by Frondizi's wife Elena Fagonato at Ezeiza Airport. Comet flights to New York City began in May 1959. 589 in the early 1960s. The fleet consisted of 4 Comet 4s, 4 Convair 240s, 15 DC-3s, 6 DC-4s, 5 DC-6 and 6 Sandringhams, whereas the 10 F-27s ordered in 1957 were still pending delivery. The 1960s saw the carrier ordering the Avro 748 turboprop airliner. The aircraft started services on 15 February 1962 between Buenos Aires and Punta del Este. The first flight for the Caravelle in Aerolíneas colors was Buenos Aires-Santiago de Chile on 1 April 1962. At April 1965. In November 1969. The carrier entered a pool agreement with Lufthansa covering services between Germany and Argentina. By March 1970, another milestone for the company took place in June 1980 with the first South Polar scheduled service, linking Buenos Aires with Hong Kong via Auckland. Late that year, a second-hand Boeing 747 SP was acquired from Braniff for $51 million United States dollars. The airline was assigned by law the monopoly of international operations from Argentina in 1971. This meant no other Argentine airline was able to operate international flights, let alone the already created Austral. The carrier therefore became the flag carrier of the country. The same law also assigned Aerolneas Argentinas a 50% share of the domestic market. Following the acquisition of Austral by the Argentine government in 1980. Both Aerolneas Argentinas and Austral became government-owned, to the extent that some routes were simultaneously operated, even using similar equipment. However, a state of continuous tension existed over salary differences between both companies that eventually led the Aerolneas Argentinas pilots to a 3-week-long strike that started on 1 July 1986. During this strike, the government leased pilots from the Argentine Air Force to operate some aircraft. Other companies took advantage from this situation and gained the market share Aerolneas Argentinas lost, as domestic routes were operated by Austral, LADE, and LAPA, and the government temporarily authorized foreign carriers to exploit the company's international routes, using a Boeing 747-200. The airline operated the first transantarctic commercial flight on 7 June 1980. During and shortly after the Falklands War in 1982, the airline was banned from British airspace. A flight from London Gatwick to Argentina's capital was once scheduled, but because of the ban, passengers bound to Argentina had to change planes at Madrid Barajas. At March 1985, Aerolneas Argentinas had 9,822 employees. At this time, the fleet comprised 1 Boeing 707-320B, 1 Boeing 707-320C, 7 Boeing 727-200s, 10 Boeing 737-200s, 2 Boeing 737-200Cs, 5 Boeing 747-200Bs, 1 Boeing 747SP, 2 Fokker F-28-1000s, and a Fokker F-28-4000. The international network radiated from Buenos Aires and served Asunción, Auckland, Bogota, Cape Town, Caracas, Frankfurt, Guayaquil, Hong Kong, La Paz, Lima, Los Angeles, Madrid, Mexico City, Miami, Montevideo, Montreal, New York, Paris, Rio de Janeiro, Rome, Sao Paulo, Santiago, Porto Alegre, and Zurich. Sydney was first served in 1989 and flights to London resumed in January 1990. The privatization of the airline started being considered under the government of Raúl Alfonsín, when SAS was proposed to become a 40% shareholder of the state company. This was firmly resisted by the Peronist opposition. The staff had grown to 10,372 by March 1990. Late this year, a consortium led by Iberia and Austral's owner Cielos del Sur SA acquired an 85% stake in Aerolneas Argentinas for $130 million in cash, the same amount to be injected within a 10-month